Hi there, in this video we are going to go over how to apply the distance formula to find perimeter. Your objective for today is to calculate the distance using the distance formula and to find the perimeter of a figure using the distance formula. So to start with, you need to know what distance is. Distance is the length between a starting point and an ending point. And here is the distance formula. The distance formula says that d is equal to the square root of you take x2 minus x1 and you square it, plus y2 minus y1 and you square that. And then add them up, and then you take the square root. Alright, so in our first example, this is just a straight use the distance formula example. So we have find the distance between A, which is negative 2, 1, and B, which is 4, 3. So I would always start off with making sure that you label. So point A, which is your x1, y1, and point B is your x2, y2. So you start with your distance formula and you plug in the numbers that you're given. So x2 minus x1, so you're going to plug in 4 minus negative 2, plus, and then you're going to have y2 minus y1. So y2 is 3 and y1 is 1, so those are the numbers that we plug in, and then we begin to solve. You always want to think of grouping symbols first, right, Gems? So we start with our grouping symbols. So 4 minus negative 2, which is positive 6, and it will be squared, plus 3 minus 1, which is 2, and that's squared. So now 6 squared is 36, plus 2 squared, which is 4, and you take the square root of that sum. So it would be the square root of 40. So the square root of 40 is about 6.3. So here you have the distance, or the line segment of AB is about 6.3, and you just say units, 6.3 units. That is your distance. Alright, so now that we know how to use the distance formula, we're going to apply the distance formula to find the perimeter. So here's a triangle, and we're going to find the perimeter. And the way that we're going to do this is by taking using the distance formula and finding the distance of each side, and then adding that together. So let's start first with side JK. So JK is from here to here. Alright, so you always want to start labeling your points. So the first point is 3, 0. The second point is 1, negative 3. The first one is always x1, y1. The second one is always x2, y2. And, alright, sorry about that. So we are going to plug in our x2, x1, y2, y1. So once you have them labeled at the top, it's easy. So 1 minus 3 plus negative 3 minus 0. And then you do what's in the parentheses first, right? So 1 minus 3 is negative 2 squared, plus negative 3 minus 0 is negative 3, and again squared. Now negative 2 squared is negative 2 times negative 2, so it's a positive 4. Negative 3 squared is negative 3 times negative 3, which gets you that 9. And then you have to take the square root of the sum, so the sum is 13. And the square root of that is about 3.6 if we are rounding to the nearest tenth, like the question says. Alright, and next let's look at the side KL. So KL is here. Alright, so our first point, which is K, is 1, negative 3. Our second point, which is L, is negative 2, 4. And we can plug in our points. So x1, y1, x2, y2. And let's plug in. So we have negative 2 minus 1, and then we have 4 minus negative 3. So when you do that, you end up with negative 3 squared plus 7 squared. And when you do that, right, negative 3 squared is 9, 7 squared is 49. Add them together to get 58, and the square root of 58 is about 7.6. Now side LJ is our last side, which is this. You take your points, make sure you label them. So L is negative 2, 4, J is 3, 0, and then x1, y1, x2, y2, and then you plug them in. So if we plug them into the formula, we have 3 minus negative 2 on this side, and on the other side is 0 minus 4. So then you have 5 squared plus negative 4 squared. So 5 squared is 25, negative 4 squared is 16. add them together, you get 41. So the square root of 41 is about 6.4. So now you just add those three together and you end up getting 17.6 units. All right, let's look at one more example like that applying the distance formula. So again, similar scenario here. We have a triangle. We are going to find the perimeter of this triangle by doing the distance of all three sides and then adding them up. So side AB has the endpoints. So A is here, B is here. You always want to label. So we say x1, y1, x2, y2, and then we start plugging in the formula. So x2 minus x1, so 4 minus negative 1 plus 0 minus 5. 4 minus negative 1 gets you a positive 5. 0 minus 5 gets you a negative 5. Take the square both of those. So both of those end up being 25. So 25 plus 25 is 50. So then you take the square root of 50 and you get about 7.1. For the next side, which is BC, B is here, C is here, so we're finding the distance of this side. So label your points and then plug in. So x2 minus x1, you end up getting negative 2 minus 4. Y2 minus y1, that's negative 3 minus 0. And when you go to solve, you get negative 6 squared plus negative 3 squared, which negative 6 squared ends up being 36. Negative 3 squared is 9. The sum of that is 45. And then in the square root, so square root of 45 is 6.7. All right, and then the last side, side CA, which is here. Your 2 points are negative 2, 3 and negative 1, 5, so you plug them in. Well, first you label, right, x1, y1, x2, y2, and then you plug in. So our x2 minus x1 is negative 1 minus negative 2 squared plus 5 minus negative 3 squared, and we are going to solve. So negative 1 minus negative 2 gets you a positive 1. 5 minus negative 3 gets you a positive 8, and then you square each of those to get 1 plus 64, or the square root of 65, which ends up getting you to be about 8.1. So again, in the problem it says round to the nearest tenth, and we can start adding. So 7.1 plus 6.7 plus 8.1 ends up getting us to be 21.9 units. All right, so just some concluding thoughts. You want to make sure that you know the distance formula. So here it is. I would make sure that you have that written down. You also must know the starting point will always be x1, y1, and the ending point will always be x2, y2. And then finally, to find the perimeter of a figure, you must find the distance of each side and then add them. And then add. Alright, so that's it. I hope you learned how to apply the distance formula to find perimeter. Thank you for watching.